Hi, guys. Today on Chats, I'm joined by a man who's traveled far and wide to learn from some of the most renowned masters. He has received tutelage from Grandmasters Cam Lee, Kenny Chin, Chen Yu Ching, Waylon Wong, and now Sunday Yao, rounding off his martial arts education. He is the founder and headmaster of Addis Kung Fu in Miami, Florida, and is dedicated to giving the most complete Chinese martial arts education offered from beginners to a university master's level. Please welcome Sifu Besufekad Dereje, affectionately known as Sifu Dennis. How are you doing today, sir?
How are you, sir? Thank you for having me, Super Mark.
Thank you very much for being here, sir. So we're going to go ahead and go straight into the interview. How do you get started in the martial arts?
Actually, I grew up in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I started from movies, just really to make it short. And my uncle used to practice with some friends. It wasn't legal in Ethiopia to practice these arts. It was from 74 transitioned to like a communist country for a period of time. So we weren't allowed to practice in public like that. And so same reasons in China, they had to stop practicing it. But I found through my uncle, I was practicing with him and I see anything in the movies and I'll go copy it and I'll go outside and practice it. And so by the time I was 14, I was breaking bricks, from like doing but the external way. So my fingers were all like black and like calcified and stuff like that. And so then I moved to San Francisco, and then San Francisco, I started my official school in a Taekwondo, Hapkido, and Tai Chi class, which was a Sun Mudo. And instructor Batan was the teacher. And in a couple of years, I became one of his favorite students. I was 16, and he would take me to adults class and spar with them and stuff like that. And I had to move to Phoenix, so then I had to stop that and started just kickboxing, different things there for a couple of years. I lived there till I finished high school, then moved to Miami. And once I got to Miami, I went to a Chinese Kung Fu school and saw a monkey style mantis and all this stuff. And I thought, oh my God, this was like the movies I watched. So I started that in a very commercial school. And I was there for 10 years because I thought, I had to be loyal and do these things, whatever. So introductory to Kung Fu was in Miami when I got to here. I was like 18. And I started Northern Shaolin. And it had Emperor's Long Fist. It was one of the other arts. It was in Kung Fu Connection. Sifu Gus Rubio is the headmaster of that school. And after 10 years, I left to Andrew Chang and started practicing Tai Chi Shingi Bagua and Chen Panling martial arts. And then in 2006, 3 years later, the Grandmaster came. He was doing a tour. And he just met me, and it was in the middle of something, in the middle of the demonstration. He would say like, okay, Dennis, come. Because I had my kids class there to demo for him, for Grandmaster Chen Chen. So we clicked, and he would just tell me like, okay, grab a sword. And he would show me all these different things in the middle of the seminar that we were hosting, where Andrew Chang was hosting. And then he invited me to Taiwan. I went to Taiwan to visit him. I hosted him here a couple of years. And then I met Grandmaster Waylon Wong. Now, throughout this whole time, I've met Grandmaster Cam Lee years ago in tournament, and he was always someone that I looked up to. And we always talked about how big his hands were, and like he used to do this internal five ancestors and now Chen style. And so he was always someone I looked up to, and he was my mentor. So I always had him, and he was in Jacksonville, and I didn't feel it was respecting of him that I didn't give him the time that I'm giving my teachers that I can take from him. So I go every year for demonstrations and whatever events that he has that I can go to. But I literally traveled to Taiwan, China, and Japan to study Chinese martial arts. Once I saw the politics in the group classes and the traditional schools here, simply because they grew up here and they misunderstood the language that I grew up with, which is why, when you ask me questions like, why are you doing it this way? What made you get to this university type of stuff? that was my main drive, was seeing that I actually came from those worlds. And I met these teachers like Kemley. These people are not the same as people that are just getting up today and saying, oh, I did this style, and like watched a couple of videos or went to a couple of seminars. These were genuine 10-year under Sifu, being supervised and watched and corrected to get the actual language. So that meant something to me. And since I wasn't the only one doing it, I had these grandmasters that I was going to connect the students to. I thought in America, you go to college, and a college student can teach a high school student. Yeah. So, and then when you become a professor or whatever, you go and teach in colleges. So I thought I'll use the same structure where as they develop, I'm developing, and everyone grows with it. And the grandmasters that are alive, they have access to them, because in America, you're lying if you think you have access to these genuine traditional arts. You can't even have it in China today. So they're having a hard time keeping students because people have to live, and it's time consuming. And it's very hard to see how it benefits you today unless you present it as a preventative, which is what I was trying to do in creating this Kung Fu cardio, Tai Chi basic stuff. But my starting in Kung Fu was in a way where I saw Bruce Lee and I wanted Wing Chun for my hands, and I wanted Taekwondo for the legs. So I thought I was done until I saw Kung Fu. And I saw the different layers of all these different villages that had literally what we call mixed martial arts today. Was already in 300 years ago, they were doing it there. They had stage fights, and they had all these different things. And they had people come from different villages and challenge each other. And I was like, and that was, it was a real challenge to the death sometimes. And it was not this sport so much. So seeing that, and when I see people that study here, and when they open schools, they mix jiu-jitsu, judo, or whatever, they, like boxing and different things, and they try to supplement for the Kung Fu part, which is great. But I grew up there. I know how it's misunderstood. It's a package. So if I gave that package to a boxer, they would be an amazing boxer. It's a misunderstanding of these forms. So I studied these forms. I went to different parts of the world. I went to different teachers and studied all the different forms as complete as I can get them, so that today when I teach people, I'm not teaching people, oh, don't kick below don't kick above the hip because someone on the boat told them not to do it. It was like a fisherman's art. So fishermen didn't want to pick their legs up, so they kept their feet down and they used their hands. So that style in China was, was like a big no-no. You can't use your leg to hit the face. You can't apply that to America because America has open space. It's not like Hong Kong where you're on top of each other, so you only have to use shorthand. All of these theories that these traditional arts have can actually help all Americans from different parts of the world that are not dealing with that stuff today. So you don't have to be pointed to just one way and say that this is a traditional art, and then go, oh, I don't know why he got beat up today because someone took him to the ground and choked him out or whatever. Like, these things were complete. They were battlefield proven. So, which means all we need to do is make them whatever the sport that we're playing with, but it definitely prepared people to go to a battle. So prepare people to go into a fighting ring. So if you see now, all UFC fighters, all MMA fighters are going to traditional teachers and getting some sort of regular practice, because now we're seeing the full picture with Mike Tyson and all this stuff, that coach and that fighter, what makes them unique is that relationship. And the longer that you keep it, that guy stays safe. That ego won't burn him and kill him. So the Sifu and student relationship for me was the father and son I saw in Ethiopia, the priest that had a disciple that was passing down information. So to me, it was like, oh, I know this part. But then when I came here, I couldn't understand the American teachers that were doing it like it was a product. And so then it's like, wait, so I have to wait until I'm a black belt to do this, but then someone can come and pay for this one and learn it. Where it's like, that's not how these things work. It's your job. You come in and you practice them. And it's like nature. If you put the time and effort into it, that's your seed. You can grow your own seed in your own house. And how big your tree grows, that's up to the love you gave it. But if you make it standardized to where everybody grows their tree the same way, whatever, that's a misunderstanding of nature. That's a fish tank mentality. See, that's not nature in the way we see it in the ocean and stuff like that. So today we're like dealing with that. So I thought it's so important in this part of the world to have something that allows people to center. Because when you do that form, it gives us something that we can share, that I can say to you, hey, you didn't do this part. And it's not personal, it's not that, it's just you missed that movement. And the more I hold you accountable to that, the more everything in your life you go, oh, I should do this. And that freedom and independence doesn't mean being irresponsible and letting yourself go in every way you can. So, but anyway, that's what got me into Kung Fu and kept me teaching it. And now I want to do it for the rest of my life and find a way to make a living from it that is honest and not bastardizing the arts, where I give people this thing that they don't know, but then I say, hey, look, this is connected to these people, and we have to go visit them and learn the rest of the stuff. And so Grandmaster Kemli, Grandmaster Chen Yunchin, Grandmaster Sunday Out, Waylin Wang, Grandmaster Kenny Chen, all of these people, most of them passed away today, but all of these people were, I didn't think that I would ever be without these people in my life. Once, if I'm doing this, if I'm teaching this, that means my father's still alive, then that person stays in my life. Unless you have a bad relationship with your father or whatever, it doesn't make sense that you learn from someone. They teach you something. You know it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. And you're actually going out and teaching it. You're like, I don't know what to do with this guy. Like, just respect them. Respect the source where it came from. And so that's why, to me, Grandmaster Kemli and even Master Nick Screama in South Miami, South Florida, that he hosts the tournaments and all this stuff. And he has all these different practices that he's been doing. And so now when someone becomes a Sifu today and opens a school or whatever, Americans, because now it's becoming popular, have no idea how to tell the difference between one versus the other. And some of these guys have put so much time and effort into their body and mind that if you spend an hour with them, it would literally put together 30 years of information that you've been searching. And that's what happened to me. So I'm grateful to that. So I want to do the same thing as for anybody that comes in front of me.
So it is through your passion, that's the actual drive to want to give up to university master's level of Chinese martial arts education. Also, by being able to give this information, you're also honoring the teachings of said grandmasters.
That's correct.
That is awesome. So, because you've studied so many styles, Xingyi, Bagua, Taiji, different styles of Taiji as well, and I believe now Taiji Mantis, Taiji Plumflower Mantis.
Right.
Through studying so many styles, do you have a favorite?
Well, obviously Mantis, that's why I got back into Mantis. I've always loved Mantis growing up because it's the sum of everything. So if you never studied Taiji Xingyi Bagua, when you do this Mantis system, for example, you wouldn't understand why certain movements are a certain way and that externally it doesn't make sense. But if you have the internal work, you understand it's after the touch that's happening. So then it's a different application. You see, that information is lost if you just teach form. So you're learning from a video or whatever. There's no contact to pass down this huge information that came from that transmission. So in the old world, the touch, you had three layers. You had the skin, the flesh, and the bone. The bone of the art is the principle, and you are living that principle. The application is the flesh of the art. The skin is just the form that everyone is fighting over and talking about this style, that style. It's like, that has nothing to do with any of the practice. That only means something if you have the insight. Then when you speak this language, it's like you're just making noise. Like, well, yeah, you can make noise. But this guy speaks Chinese and Spanish and English and French. And I mean, he makes sense and other people understand him. That's a different story. You are actually speaking this language. You have to take the time and learn it. That's okay. That's very different. You see, that's the traditional art. That's why the university thing has to do with only time. 10 years was just how long it takes for your body to change. So this is not a short-term plan. So the real practice of any traditional art is I can customize it to whatever you want today. But my main thing is to support these traditional teachers that have been teaching traditional arts for 30 years in this country. And I'm younger than them, and I see them. And even if I disagree with their teachings and all the stuff, they were the first ones to open a school and teach this traditional art here before anyone understood what monkey style was or northern shell or whatever. So these people need to be given respect. I don't care if they don't like me or whatever it is, but it's a traditional martial arts. And they did what they understood. I grew up in the world that they didn't grow up in. So judging them coming here and looking at them, you know, the way that they are using the art or teaching it, that's only because I came from that world. That was a privilege. Because I grew up in Ethiopia where your teachers can hit you and to discipline you. It's like a completely different mentality. So seeing Kung Fu teacher coming and telling you and yelling at you, whatever, making you do certain things over and over again, like it wasn't so abnormal for me. Whereas it is in America. I went to high school where I in San Francisco where I was looking for someone to come and stop these kids from talking because I thought it was like in Ethiopia, some teacher is gonna come and like stop these kids. And no, the teacher walks in and they're still talking or whatever. And at the end of the year, they complained that the teacher did not teach them math. And I swear to you, she took me to the principal's office to explain that she actually, look, I teach, he listens to me. They weren't paying attention. I just had a bad, group of people, whatever. And it was two of us that passed that math class. And it wasn't because of anything else. It was because they had a Walkman on, they were sleeping, and they were just like, hey, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. And they can just say that to a teacher. See, I don't allow that in my school. Whatever your freedom is, you keep it there. Once you come into my space, you asked me to show you and mirror something. If you're not ready for that, it's okay. Do you get a video, do whatever you want. But as soon as you face a human being, that's the whole point of this world being so divided and all this stuff is because we lost that person-to-person communication and contact and understanding that it takes a few tries to get it right. Unless you're an AI or some movie, no one gets to understand somebody's point right away. It takes a few tries. And if you don't believe that, try to do just one movement. Then your teacher goes, no, no. And you're like, well, you just raised your arm and you put it down. How's that wrong? That you didn't do it this way. It's like, and you think for a while, you think the person is crazy or they're just picking on you. So that's the part I want to translate for this new world and the old world, because I lived both worlds, so that I feel that my specialty is in just making sure that we communicate these arts properly and then use them for the tools that they are, and then respect the people that are actually passing it down in any form whatsoever. But if they have the complete thing, that person did something you didn't do, and they should be respected.
Understandable, and that's a very good answer to that question. You actually answered the second question I was going to ask without even knowing it. Having learned in many countries, also many cultures around the world, how does the training from there differ from training here in the United States? That is
perfect. Good.
That is absolutely great. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. If you could only teach one thing to the new generation of martial arts, right? Whether it be technique or philosophy, your pick, what would it be?
Self-love. We're practicing self-hate today. You don't even realize it, but so if I can share one thing, it would be just to, when you love others, see, you hear people saying today, oh, I prefer animals more than people. Okay, that means you don't love yourself, because you are people. You're thinking about some other person, but the words you're using is about you. So it doesn't matter what style that they do. The most important thing is, can you find your feet first? As soon as you find your feet, you're like, oh my God, yeah, I didn't feel my left one. See, I felt my inside, but I didn't feel the outside one. It's like, oh, you don't think that's related to everything you touch in the world. Because if you're that disconnected, I can sell you anything in the world and we keep fighting each other for different things. So see, I created this thing. This part is the Taiji part. This part is the Bagua, and this is the Xing, the 5 elements, right? And this image was like in 2005, I created it because I wanted to put it somewhere where it's like a cheat sheet where people know the 5 elements you can see, and then the Shaolin, Xingyi, Bagua, Taiji, and Liho Bafa, or Tanglang Judo, Tanglang for this one, praying mantis. And then Liho Bafa is the last part that cups everything together, because in a human civilization, we actually went through that period, and you're looking at what they preserved in time. So if you skip anything, you miss that part where it like literally makes you work over time, where you find your feet. And once you find your feet, you know how important it is. Then you would fight for it. You wouldn't let anyone come and disrespect you in any way. You would make sure you fight for your dreams, and you would have a plan. You live an intentional life. So Xingyi is about intention, Bagua is about changes, Taiji is about yielding. So I don't care which one they pick. But once I help them find their feet, then they right away go, oh wait, I have a father, I have a mother, I have a son, I have everything that's related to you becomes important. So that would be my message.
Self-love. In order to love others, you must love yourself first.
That's why I think God gave us family, because you have to learn to love your own brother, sister, whatever. Then you have a chance to love somebody else. But they're very different than you. See, and now I know, just practicing this, I have, 3 brothers and 1 sister. I know my brother's gonna make fun of me. It's 3 brothers together, but it's 4 altogether. I'm the oldest one. Anyway, he's like a corporate guy. He's a VP or something, but he went through the whole American path, and he's very successful. My youngest brother is an engineer. My sister is like a medical coding thing, and so all of them are very successful, and they take care of themselves. And my mother and my sister live together. My brother is married and lives in, my youngest one lives in West Palm Beach. And then the one that's younger than me lives next to me. But he's like the older brother in terms of just because he was focused more in making sure he's successful and all stuff. I was focused in practicing this traditional practice and studying. So I asked them to support me to do this for a while. So now I'm intentionally trying to make sure I can also financially support myself and my family and everything. So Kung Fu Cardio, Tai Chi Basics are things that are mainly for people to practice and share it and be introduced to these great arts and people that are connected to them. So that if we keep those people alive, the art stays alive, but it's connected to people.
That is great. That is great. That is great. Sifu Dennis, I got one more question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And people want to contact you. How do they do that?
They can call me. It's a public number, 305-450-5864, or text me on that number would be the best way, because then I would have that information saved. Email is addiskungfu@yahoo.com, and Instagram, Facebook, Addis Kung Fu Academy, and and YouTube, Addis Kung Fu. If you search those things, you would find it.
All right. Information for Sifu Dennis will be in the description below. Also in the description below is a link for Feiyu shoes. Click the link, get the best prices, the best deals, and the best styles, all at Feiyu shoes. Sifu Dennis, I do have to thank you very much for your time. We have to get back to practicing our businesses as well, sir.
Thank you so much, Sifu Mark, for taking the time. It's some amazing work you're doing, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, and all the same.